Do you have that one friend filled with that random and seemingly unending amount of useless knowledge? Well, I am that friend, and if I don't know the answer to something, I'll certainly be looking it up. I love to learn, research, and share my findings. So I thought, why not share it all with a bunch of strangers on the internet? And, maybe enjoy a drink or two while we're at it. Welcome to I'm Already Looking It Up. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of I'm Already Looking It Up. So today I decided I was going to talk a little bit about Veterans Day. I actually thought, I knew everything there really was to know about Veterans Day, but there is a lot of, kind of interesting little facts here. Uh, I I mean, it's not something I normally really observe that much. I mean, I have family who served in the army and everything, so it's something. It's a day I remember them, but honestly, I don't really have a lot of connection to this holiday. But I decided to just go ahead and just look up some fun facts and see if there was anything really interesting. And yeah, I just thought, let's give it a go. Like last episode, this may not be a super long episode, mainly because it's just, a list of fun little facts. Like, I'm pretty sure I pulled them off like a BuzzFeed article or something like that. Um, but I wasn't trying super hard for this one. November's kind of a weird month, in this whole holiday kind of area, because we just I don't know. We have Halloween, which is a big deal. There's lots of things to talk about with Halloween. And then you have Christmas, where there's lots of things to talk about with Christmas. Thanksgiving is kind of odd. I feel like there's just not a lot going on besides going and eating with your family and all that stuff. So, it's not my favorite month. I love food and everything, and I love seeing my family, and I love, hanging out and stuff. But, eh, I could do that. I could just ask them if I could come over for dinner or something, So it is what it is. But for Veterans Day, I did find some interesting things. When I was in high school, I was gonna mention this because I thought it was. I think this is my core memory when it comes to Veterans Day. When I was in high school, we always had our all school, well, not all school play, but it was like the high school play. Um, and it almost always premiered on Veterans Day. I say premiere like it was a big deal. Honestly, it was kind of a big deal because all of the kids got out of classes for it. We all got to watch the whole thing, and it was a lot of fun. I got to be in it one year, so that was cool. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think of when I think of Veterans Day. But like I said, I do have some family who served, and they are people I appreciate and admire very much. So, yeah, I thought, this would be nice to kind of talk about a holiday I don't really talk about. All right, that is enough of me ranting. So, let's get into it. A little bit of history. Veterans Day is the national holiday held annually on November 11th in the United States to honor those who served in the armed forces. It actually has a long, complex history and involves multiple presidents, name changing, and parades held all over the country. So, the first fact I found was that Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day, which I kind of knew. It marked the 1 year anniversary of the temporary cessation of hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany Germany during World War I. My bad. The armistice went into effect at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. In 1926, Congress passed a resolution to make Veterans Day an annual occurrence, though it didn't become a federal holiday until 1938. And in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the name to Veterans Day from Armistice Day so that it would honor all veterans across the country. So first it was mainly about World War I, and then changed to honor all veterans, which is really cool. Fact number 2 was that in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Holidays Act, which put Veterans Day on the fourth Monday in October. This took effect in 1971, but in 1975, President Gerald Ford signed a law moving the day back to November 11th, which, like, I don't know. There are a few holidays like that. I actually kind of hate holidays like that because I think Mother's Day is like that because it's like the first Sunday in May or something along those lines. And I hate holidays like that because I'm like, just give it a date. It's so much easier to figure that out than being like, okay, I can't remember exactly when it's supposed to be, but it is what it is. The only one I do understand is like Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving is pretty easy because it's like the last Thursday of November, and it makes a lot more sense, but I'm not, you know what? I didn't make the holidays. So, fact number 3, Memorial Day, which is in May, honors veterans who died in the line of duty on Veterans Day. Died in the line of duty. And Veterans Day honors all veterans, both living and dead. There is also a Women's Veterans Day, which I thought was really cool. It is June 12th. And that celebrates. Hold on. Here it is. June 12th, it's the day Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act in 1948. So that is pretty cool. Didn't know that there was a Women's Day, though equality-wise, I think it would be better for everybody to just say, like, Veterans Day honors all veterans, including women, but, I'm not gonna, again, whatever. Let's see. President Ronald Reagan designated July 16th, 1983, a one-time commemoration known as Atomic Veterans Day for veterans who participated in nuclear tests between 1945 and 1962. And also served with U.S. military forces in or around Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Through mid 1946, or were held as prisoners of war in or near Hiroshima or Nagasaki. President Joe Biden reinstated this holiday and signed a law making it a national holiday annually, which is also pretty cool. Like, it's a niche little thing, but it's just like, oh, that's neat that, I mean, and it is kind of the same thing as Women's Day, because the Women's Veterans Day, because that is a very significant day for women in the Army. But I like both of them. I think it's a really cool niche, like, little, like, oh, yeah, these people were, around a nuclear bomb, and, like, that's super dangerous in general, but it's also, like, I mean, that's how we came out of World War II alive. Still kind of a sad thing to think about, though. Fact number 5. Since 1954, the Veterans Day National Committee has overseen executive planning for the holiday. They meet 3 times a year in Washington, D.C. At first, the Administrator of Veterans Affairs was the chair of the committee, but in 1989, when Veterans Affairs became a cabinet department, the responsibility fell to the Secretary of Veteran Affairs. Didn't even know there was, like, a whole thing for that. I mean, the Committee for Veteran Affairs makes sense, because that kind of alludes to, benefits and stuff when veterans come out of the Army, which I wish we did more. Honestly, like, it's, as someone who works in kind of a field where I do interact with some veterans who came back and have fallen on hard times, I wish there was more that we did for those people. And it's just a little sad, so more than a little sad, but Yeah. So fact number 6 was kind of a odd one to put in there, but I was like, it's kind of interesting. So Veterans Day, there's a lot of question about how it's officially spelled. Um, Veterans Day has no apostrophe. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the holiday doesn't belong to the veterans. It is simply a day of honoring them. So it is a day of veterans, not a Veterans Day, if that makes sense. I think it does. That's all I got. I just thought that was like interesting that it was very specific in that way. um but I always also say, like, words matter, but they don't matter at the same time, because obviously all words are made up. Um, but at the same time, the way, and it's true in a lot of cultures as well as a lot of, I mean, English is kind of odd because, like, especially in America, America's so vast that there's, so many different dialects, so many different accents. You say things differently. Um, and it's important in America, but it also in other cultures. Language is super important. How you say things, the inflection, what word you're using. I've been learning Spanish on Duolingo for quite a while, and it's very interesting just kind of how there's not like one word for some, for like this or for that. Like, you have to change it based on the sentence. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. So it's kind of cool to include that in a list of facts. Like, you would never think to really think about it too hard, I guess. So fact number 7, Francis Carr Stifler of the American Bible Society advocated for November 11th to be renamed Mayflower Day, as it was also the day the Mayflower contract was signed in 1620. I think Veterans Day is way better. But I am gonna do an episode that will release the day after Thanksgiving, because that's the Friday. Excuse me. But I don't know, early American history, it's fascinating. There are parts of it that are really fascinating, because things like Roanoke and all that. But I don't know, I just don't find a lot of colonial history very interesting. But for Thanksgiving, I do want to actually kind of go into, like, when you're a kid and you're in school in the United States, you grow up learning, like, what the first Thanksgiving was, and, how Native Americans and colonizers shared a meal and all that stuff, and that's why it's Thanksgiving. And really, I'd like to go into what the truth behind that is, because I think most of us are self-aware enough to know that that's not the truth. And I just never really asked the question of where does Thanksgiving actually come from. So I think that would be an interesting thing to explore. But anyway, enough of my little tangent there. But yeah, let's see. Fact number 8, Arlington's National Cemetery, which spans 624 acres, is the final resting place of more than 400,000 military service members and their families. On November 11th, a commemoration is held at the cemetery where guards lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier, and a parade of colors is held by the Veterans Organization. The ceremony is free and open to the public. Attendees are encouraged to arrive at least an hour early. Yeah, I've heard of, I mean, I'm sure most people have heard that this is a thing. Again, it's, if you live in the United States, it's just kind of common knowledge. But I have heard of this, and I've heard it does get like super, super crowded over there. So I actually, for Veterans Day one year, sang a song at I think it was in Dodge City, kind of where they had a lot of veterans buried and everything. It was Memorial Day. I'm pretty sure it was Memorial Day, but kind of pretty similar, not the same, similar. So the last fact I have, and I only have been talking for like 15 minutes, which is crazy because I feel like that's a little too short, but um other countries have similar days. So obviously, United States not the only place that has an army or a military. Militaries have existed for a very long time. And obviously other countries are going to honor their veterans in some way, or at least most other countries do. Uh the ones I found, they all are kind of observed on November 11th. But most of them are called Remembrance Day, at least definitely in Canada and Australia. And then in Great Britain, it's also called Remembrance Day, but it's one of those holidays where it's the Sunday the closest to the 11th, which is an interesting thought. But, you know, I I don't like holidays like that. Seems ridiculous. Yeah, I mean that's all the facts I kind of wrote down. I did think this was very interesting because it was just like I didn't, you don't, when a holiday has existed long enough that you are just kind of used to it just kind of being there. uh I think we kind of forget that there's a reason that they exist. And I mean, Halloween and Christmas are kind of obvious. And again, I don't truly know the full story behind Thanksgiving, but I'm gonna find out. And all that, but this was one, it's one of those ones where it's just an honorary day. Like Martin Luther King Day or President's Day and all that stuff. And you just don't really think too hard about it because it makes sense. Like, it was created because to honor veterans, but it's always also was created on Armistice Day at first and all that. And that's kind of one of those little factoids you learn in school. So, yeah. But I always remember being at the play and having to sing the national anthem to the veterans who were there, which was cool. And thanking them for their service, which, I know it's a day early, but thank you for your service if you're a veteran and you're listening to this. We really appreciate all that you do. And like I said, I have some family members who served. And yeah, I really do appreciate veterans. So, anyway, not to end on like kind of a sad note, really, this is very short, but I promise there's going to be longer episodes. The next episode I'm going to do, since it's not Thanksgiving yet, I will be talking about mythology and how there are many similar stories and myths across different cultures, and shed a little light on what that might implicate. So I think that would be fun, and I'm excited to do that one because mythology is like my thing. It's my jam. I've loved mythology since I was a kid, so I'm really excited to do a little more research into that. But yeah, so for now, I will say goodbye and hope to see you guys next time listening to the next episode. And yeah, if you want to check out any of my social medias, all the links are in the description on Spotify. You can also hear this podcast on um, Apple Apple Podcasts, I think. Yeah, Apple Podcasts, um, Amazon, Amazon Music. There's just a lot of places you can find it. So just try and search it up. If anyone is interested in me putting this on my YouTube channel, because YouTube is pretty easy to access, so I'm not gonna like make a video to go along with it, just because I really wanted this to just be a podcast. So, but I will just like, it'll just have a picture of the logo or something and the title. I don't know. But if that's something anybody would be at all interested in, I would be willing to do that just because I understand that like not everyone uses the same stuff for podcasts. And I actually don't know 100% where all of this goes. I know, like I said, I know Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. I think it's on iHeartRadio as well. Uh, but I'm not entirely sure. where else it goes. So, because I use Spotify for podcasters and it just kind of distributes itself, I believe. So, all right. Well, thank you for listening. If you made it all the way through, it's not the most exciting episode. I do have a lot of ideas coming up, but it's like I wanted to kind of keep theming things around the holidays or what's kind of going on and stuff. It's not really a news podcast, but I wanted to like really look into these things that are topical for like the time of year. Or I mean, some of them are just going to seem really random, but I think that this was, kind of interesting. I just never would have considered thinking too hard about the history of Veterans Day and all those little fun facts. So, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.